Up 2x2 formation. Road change now. We go racing for the first time this season. 3 hours of GT action. It's go.
This is very tight as they come down. Group of cars coming in. This has all got trouble written all over it. This is G3 cars.
Drop downhill there, head towards the Aqua Minerale. Imola, of course. There's another one off through the gravel. As wide as possible as they drop downhill, putting that from the inside line. Yes,
oh, he did.
Through he goes.
Good evening everybody and welcome back to another Apex Online Racing stream. My name is John Watts and I am very happy to be bringing you the inaugural season of the BMW M2 CIS Racing Cup here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, hosted by Apex Online Racing. If you've been keeping up with some of the updates from KUNOS over the last few weeks, you will know that we were treated to a very exciting DLC pack including 5 cars, one of which being this BMW, and you can see it's a little bit different to maybe what we've been used to over the last few weeks if you've been watching our GT3 championships. The BMW M2, a TCX car, so much simpler, more raw platform for these drivers to get behind the wheel of, and what it does is it brings us some fantastic, close, high quality racing. If I was to draw any comparisons to some other common kind of existing vehicles that we see in the sim racing community, the Master MX-5, excuse me, from iRacing, I would say that sort of the types of racing that we have there, really ridiculous scenarios sometimes of maybe going 4 wide into a corner, bump drafting one another, and having the tightest of margins, is exactly the sort of racing that we are expecting to see with these guys in this BMW TCX car. You can see, watching Connor Wright at the moment, name that you might be familiar with if you've been watching some of the Tier 2 streams of the GT3 Championship, Season 9 that ended recently, and Connor Wright was in pretty fine form in a BMW in that championship, and he's looking to try to continue that form over into the M2. Currently sitting provisionally at the top of the standings in the practice session, so we will get underway with qualifying in just a couple of minutes time. But I think we are going to have some very exciting racing, as somebody already going a little bit wide and finding the limits with this car. One of the key things that provides such good racing with the BMW M2 is the fact that there's not really much of an aero package to it. There's a couple of bits that you can change to give it some overall stability and tune it to how you want it, but it's not very reliant upon downforce, so dirty air effects aren't really something that we see when racing with this type of vehicle. So see, a lot of these guys are in the pits now, so I'd imagine that we will be switching over fairly swiftly. Currently with 32, or I think maybe one just left, 31 drivers in the server at the moment. We do have a registered full tier of 40 drivers, so hopefully, fingers crossed, some of those will join. I think the person left has just joined back, so we've got 32 drivers in the server at the moment, and around Oulton Park, very, very tight and twisty circuits. So, as Martin Oliars goes straight through the chicane onto the back straight there, but 32 cars around here that we know inherently are going to be very, very close on pace. And it's such a tight and twisty circuit, not the easiest one to overtake on, but does certainly then give the platform for some brilliant close action. And we are now switching over to qualifying. As these guys then start to make their way out of the pit lane. So 15-minute qualifying for these guys, and a few names that some of you might be familiar with in recent Apex Online Racing events. We've had the Endurance Series, we've had the main GT3 sort of championship and seasons, and we've got some names carrying across. One of those on screen at the moment, Martin Oliars, was a very competitive driver in the Tier 2 division of the GT3 League. Also have the likes of Christian Steinhauser, who's currently leading the way out front, trying to get an early lap in there with quite a flamboyant livery on that BMW. We don't have any custom livery packs for this series. It was all done on rather short notice, but I do believe that some of the drivers here have made an effort to put together some custom team liveries within the game editor, so we should see a few of those. I believe Bamwell SimSport guys of Connor Wright has one as well, which indeed he does. And as I was saying, another name familiar from Tier 2. Who else do we have carrying over from some of our main championship. I think we've also got the likes of Alexander Irish. I think he may have been in one of the slightly lower tiers, similar to William Dorsch is a name that I recognise from the community as well. But we've also got the likes of Christos Yoguk, who I believe has been taking part in some of the Endurance Championship as well. So we've got some people who have been around in AOR a bit already, and I think we may also have some other names that are a bit less familiar to us on the live stream, which is great to see, because AOR, fantastic place to do some league racing, very fun and friendly sim racing community, and it's good to have as many people joining the community as possible. As we see Christian Steinhauser now flying through these series of corners. You've got to be careful with this BMW. It can be a tricky one to get around here. You don't want to push it too hard. See, it now heads up towards turn 6, and there's a very tricky complex coming up through a series of corners. BMW, in this case, quite forgiving over these curves, but it's very, very easy. You see Steinhauser really pushing the limits there on the exit, but gets through there nicely as he then makes his way down to turn 10 and 11. Another series of corners here, all running a bit deep, and that's completely compromises his line going through turn 11, so losing a substantial amount of time there, at least half a second or so, and probably also continuing to lose speed down this back straight as he heads through turn 14 now, and then into Druid's very, very tricky corner. Not a great deal of downforce in this car, as we've said already, so it can be easy to let that back end go. And over that little crest, if the car isn't set up quite right, it is actually quite possible to lose a bit of traction as you go over there. So we'll have to see how these guys cope with that. Maybe once there's more fuel in the car, the tyres start to wear. This race, these races in this championship are similar in format to the GT3 series, a compulsory pit stop in a slightly shorter 45-minute race for these guys, and no refueling. There'll be 4 races on the calendar back-to-back over the next series of weeks. We're heading to Silverstone next week, followed by the Nürburgring, and then the finale at Laguna Seca. So Laguna Seca, a circuit that we haven't had on the AOR calendar in a while, and this car, quite nice in terms of dealing with undulation throughout a circuit, as Oulton Park is a pretty good demonstrator of that, so should be quite nice for these guys to thrash it around Laguna Seca. So let's have a look at the time board, see how people are doing. Connor Wright currently on provisional pole with a huge gap to Marcin Oliars at the moment. The only driver, the top 2 drivers, we've got Connor Wright, the only one to break into the 47s, and then Oliars, the only one, was the only one in the 48s, but for Dennis, there's going to be a few names here which are going to be difficult for me to say, but I will do my best. We've got Dennis Bjorkqvist, that's currently sitting in P4, who has also got into the 48s, as Alexander Irish, who was looking pretty handy in the practice before this session, jumps to the top of the standings on a 47.7. So it's not going to be that easy for you, Connor. Connor may have had some familiarity driving BMWs here in AOR in recent times, but Alexander Irish looking pretty speedy as well, and there's a lot of people improving. This car hasn't been around for very long, so the way to set this car up, especially I think there's been a few physics changes as well, sort of minor tweaks in the latest update, so setup approaches, driving style for this type of car in ACC, people are still trying to find their feet with it, so there might be some drivers that take a little bit longer to get up to speed, both figuratively and literally, in terms of trying to get the most out of this car. We've got a yellow flag for the number 19, who's just gone to the pits. There's Leven Gowie, who is in P10 at the moment. Oliars is on a good improvement, up by half a second at the moment as he heads towards the finish line. And that will see him jump up to P3, not quite managing to get into the 47s, but he's certainly closing on in. And let's find someone that's about to start a lap and see what it's like going on board with these guys. I think the 454 of Jerzy. I'm afraid I'm going to slightly abandon pronouncing the surname there, because I will undoubtedly butcher it very, very substantially. But I believe this car belongs to Krop, who's one of our coordinators within AOR, a staff member for quite a while. So nice to see him on the grid as well. But let's go on board with... Oh, as he gets quite the kick of oversteer through the exit of the final corner then. But now, starting a lap around Oulton Park, heading towards turn 1 of Old Hall Corner. Hard on the brakes then, trying to get the nose tucked into that apex. Bit of a dip on the inside, but you can use the camber and you can use all of the exits. He gets another kick of oversteer, heading over the crest of turn 2 now, and hard on the brakes before going into Cascades. Have to be patient with this one. It's not exactly off camber this corner, but it's very easy for the car to get away from you, as Jerzy doing a little bit of extra tyre warm-up. It looks like turn 4 now through Island Bend. High commitment in this car. Really easy to just push it a bit too hard, and then hard on the brakes again for turn 5. I'm going to try to carry as much momentum through the camber of that corner as possible. Got a little bit hung up on the curb there, so then heads towards turn 6 as we then bash through several apexes in a very short space of time, clobbering those curbs. We can really use the suspension travel in this BMW, then running over that exit curb down towards turn 10 now. Hard on the brakes again. How much curb does he take here? Just a bit. Keeps it in 3rd gear, a little bit low on the rev range, but it just gives him some confidence to then get early on the power. It gets a little bit of wheel spin though on the exit of turn 12 as he then heads up over the crest of Clay Hill now. And then the fast sweeping left-hander of turn 14, and then hard on the brakes for this tricky double apex corner of Druids. Maybe not carrying as much momentum there as he would have liked. Hasn't been the cleanest of lap 4, Jerzy, but now hard on the brakes into turn 16. How early on the power is he? Again, a kick of oversteer as he now heads over the final corner. There isn't too much of a corner of Deer Leap to complete his lap, and it will be a couple of tenths off his previous best, so he is going to continue to try to find improvement in his lap, but taking us for a nice onboard of Oulton Park to see who else is improving. We've got Sebastian Fiedelac, who is currently in P10, but 4/10 of a second up on his current time, which would see him climb all the way up into the top 5 if he can carry this advantage to the line. Some of our front runners are also improving though. You can see the margins are pretty tight with some of these guys. There's some very, very fast times at the pointy end of the grid, but anywhere from the top 5 down, and it is hundreds, if not thousands on occasion, that are separating these guys. So this gives us a fantastic idea of sort of racing we might have. Sebastian, as he crosses the line, did improve, but invalidated the lap. Quite tricky and easy. Oh, as he gets a kick of oversteer then and almost spins it around, manages to catch the car, but that will be his attempt on that lap over and done with. But there's a few areas, not too many, that are easy to get these corner cutting warnings. I think the main one is that exit of turn 1, because it's fairly forgiving to drive onto the grass, and you really do want to make as much use of it as possible, because it does open up that corner and carry all of that speed down to all the way down to turn 3, but it is very tricky to overstep the mark. How is Robin Moe going to fare as he comes through penultimate corner then? Oh, there's I think it's a Vanwall car off in the background. Robin maybe not completing that lap fully. Yeah, he was 3/10 off there. Took a bit of a wonky line over the start-finish straight. Nicely through turn 1 though. Do want to keep an eye on Connor Wright though, because this could be an attack for pole position. He's 2/10 up. It's going to be close as he heads towards the line, and he does it by just over 500ths of a second. The Vanwall Simsport car, BMW, Vanwall Simsport and Connor Wright. We've seen this combination be at the top of the timing sheets several times over in the main GT3 series, and he is looking to start off this 4-round championship just as strongly as he finished Season 9. Will Alexander Irish, with 3.5 minutes on the clock, have a response? Though Connor Wright is going faster again, so we'll have to see what he can do. Also, have a look at the likes of Dennis Bjorkqvist in P10. That was a lot of curb over the apex. Hopefully he hasn't invalidated that attempt. If he hasn't, that might have been quite a fast line through there. Doesn't look like he's continuing to charge on, but he is half a second up on his previous best. So if he can keep this margin, and in actual fact finds another 10, so if he keeps gaining like this could be a huge jump up the order for Dennis and put himself firmly in towards the top 5, of getting a nice toe off the car ahead of him. Can't quite see on the track map who that is in front of him. So many cars on the grid, the numbers do start to all merge a little bit into one. But he's 7/10 up. This could break into the 47s if he carries this margin to the line. Car ahead of him gets a little bit wide. Oh, I think Dennis has maybe lost a little bit of time, went a bit deep into that final corner, but as he heads towards the line, it will be good enough for P3, a 48.117. Brilliant effort there from Dennis to jump up the order. How is Robin Moe faring? He is a couple of tenths up, so is Marcin Oliars. So, and Dennis has already found 2 tenths in that opening sector, so by no means is this over and done with. We'll keep an eye on Robin for the time being. Whereabouts is he on the circuit? So he's just getting to the end of Sector 1. Marcin Oliars is... So he's further on in the lap. So we'll keep an eye on Marcin for the time being, and then we'll hop back to Robin and then Dennis, and we'll see how these guys are doing. Alexander Irish isn't improving on his current lap. Should still get one more flying attempt, though I believe before the session is done. Connor Wright is also on another improvement, so these guys are finding more and more grip, more and more speed in this car. Oh, Marcin runs very, very wide on the apex. Might have had to back out a little bit there in the hope not to invalidate it. I think he lost a couple of tenths, and it was a 47.8, but he did invalidate it, I believe, in the final part of the lap. How is Robin Moe doing? We've got a yellow flag for the 813 car down at the hairpin. I think that was... I'm trying to find the number now. That was James Riley, who I believe has just gone back to the pits, so that will be the end of his qualifying session. Robin Moe, though, is a 10th of a second up. He's going to need to find a little bit more than that if he wants to take P4 away from Oliars, who is also on an improvement, so is very much going down to the wire. Robin, though, as he hits the line, is exactly a 10th away from Oliars, so he will get another attempt. How is Dennis doing? Dennis was way off on that last lap, so he won't be looking to improve just yet. William Dorstow, 0.3 of a second up on his current best, as this qualifying session is very soon about to come to an end. How much speed? Oh, that was a little bit deep into the second part of that complex through turn 11. That would have compromised his exit. He was 0.3 up, now only a 10th up. Steinhauser, though, in P8 is several tenths up as well. Where is Steinhauser on the circuit? That is coming into the final corner, so we'll see what he does across the line. This could be a big jump up the order, might even break into the 47s if he can carry enough momentum to the line. And it's a 48.0, not quite for Steinhauser. That's good enough for P3, so a good effort there from him. William Dorsch, his final effort, has found a couple of tenths in that final sector. He'll be distraught over some of the time that he lost through turn 11, but that's good enough to see him go up to P6. Who else do we have coming across the line? I think Dennis is on his lap and he's 0.3 up at the moment, getting a little bit of a toe off the car ahead of him. How much more time can he find in this lap? If he carries this all the way to the line, this could almost challenge for pole position. Alexander Irish did improve in the end, and so did Connor Wright. There's only a 100th of a second separating those two guys. Brilliant, brilliant competition and back and forth from those two, so we'll have to see how they fare in the race. Dennis, though, it all goes very deep, though, into the final corner. That might have lost him everything. And as he comes towards the line, I think that has lost all of the advantage that he did have. and not improving. So Dennis, a car to watch, I think, in the race, but not able to find improvement at the end there. I think one of last drivers still on a lap for the time being. Oh, that is it. So, for the first qualifying session of this BMW M2 CIS Racing Cup then, Connor Wright, a familiar name who has been on pole position, I believe, at least once in the GT3 Championship of Season 9, puts him and BMW back at the front of another grid for a new season and a new championship. So exactly starting off how he wanted to with this season. So let's have a run through the order that we have on these guys. So on pole position then, Connor Wright for Van Wall Simsport is going to lead this very, very long pack of 33 cars in the end for the start of this race. So expect, hopefully not too much carnage, but some very, very close racing, I imagine, especially in these opening laps. Alexander Irish challenged Connor all the way throughout that qualifying session and only finished a hundredth of a second, away from Connor. So those two guys would be interesting to see who has the advantage in the long-running pace, but on one-lap pace, very, very strong showing from them. Christian Steinhauser, good to see his name back near the pointy end of the grid. Didn't have the strongest of seasons in Tier 2 that he would have liked. A slightly concerning notification saying that OBS has reconnected, so I'm hoping that there wasn't an interruption in the stream. I think we're back again, so I do apologise for that. If somebody in the chat could just pop a comment in to say that that the stream is back again, that would be very helpful for my own peace of mind. I do apologise, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but I think everything is back up and running. So Dennis Bjorkqvist in P4, we know we've got pace in that car. Marcin Oliars, very familiar name within the top 5, and he is sitting in P5 for this. William Dorsch P6, Robin Moe in P7. Oh, interesting. The stream apparently never went away. At my end, the stream disconnected and then reconnected, so you would have heard my slight technical saga at mine. But thank you for the confirmation there in the chat. Very much appreciated. Thankfully, no too disastrous technical issues then. Anthony Fernandez starting in P8. Trafka P9. Clement in P10, and then Christos Yoguk in P11. Hans-Peter P12, followed by Yannick Lautenschlager, I believe, in P13, and then following him is P14 Sebastian Fiedelac, and then Josh Waring around the midpoint of the grid in P15. Thank you very much, guys, for the confirmation. Do apologise for the slight weirdness of my end. That's probably Windows just deciding to throw a slight spanner in the works just for fun. But P16, Manuel Rutter, and then Dan Minton sitting in P17. Philip Beale in P18, and then behind him, Felix Dressler. And then rounding out the top 20 is going to be Nico Lattinen. And then behind him will start James Riley, followed by Jerzy, insert surname that I unfortunately cannot pronounce here. And then in 23rd position we have Lieven Gowie, followed by John Eric Tonstad in P24. And then in P25 we've got Martin Sinolta, followed by Nathaniel Shirley in 26th. Kiki Mack in 27th, followed by Krzysztof Witkowski in 28th. I'm again probably going to butcher this one horribly, but Sarbolx in P29. I do apologise to some of the drivers on the grid. Feel free to contact me and correct me on any pronunciations for future streams. We've got Sam Maudsley in P30, followed by Remco Langedick in 31st. first, and then Renner Battenberg in 32nd, and then rounding out our field of 33 cars, Igor 55. So a long list of drivers there for our inaugural season of this BMW M2 Cup, and it's a very good thing for us because we want as many drivers on the grid as possible to provide us with the best amount of action possible. So these guys now doing the formation lap, and we'll be looking to try to get some warmth into these tyres. So weather-wise for today, we do have a 100% chance of it being dry throughout the entire session. So won't be having to worry about any rain. I don't believe that's the case though for the rest of the season, so a little bit of a warm-up for these guys here at Oulton Park, but then we'll be back to... Oh, Alexander Irish getting a little bit overly flamboyant there in his BMW in P2. Reminds me a little bit of Fernando Alonso warming up the tyres in the sort of mid-2000s era, where he was borderline crashing at every single opportunity during a formation lap. So we'll see, maybe that'll provide Alexander with the advantage he needs to get past Connor in the early stages. And around a circuit like this, you need every single small advantage that you can possibly get. And we know that on raw pace, that these guys were almost inseparable. So absolutely looking forward to a very close fight between them. Thank you guys for the confirmation of the stream. We've got a question. How many tracks and car classes does ACC have today? So, good question. I believe if you include all of the content from DLC, I think that we've got GT3 cars spanning across varying eras of the Real Championship. We've also got GT4 cars. We have the Cup Challenge cars, so things like the BMW M2. We've got the what I believe is the 488 Challenge that recently got added. We've got 2 generations of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, 2 generations of the Porsche Cup car, one being the 992 car that was recently added, and so I think if you put all of those together, I think we've got 5 classes of cars and several different tracks across all of the continents, and possibly, based on some of the teasers, making our way into America very soon in the future. So that'll be something to look forward to. But what we shall look forward to for now is the beginning then of the first round of the BMW M2 Cup here, and that is lights out, and Connor Wright gets a rather poor start, and I think Alexander Irish might be immediately about to snatch his position away. Connor Wright though fighting back on the inside of turn 1. Alexander Irish going to try carrying that momentum on the grass. We've got several drivers onto the grass, and Connor Wright has taken that one back. Managed to squeeze Alexander a bit wide there at turn 1 to hold on to that position. Got a poor run away from the line. Dennis Bjorkqvist though has made his way up into P3. I think everyone's made their way cleanly through the first series of corners, as we've already got a lot of side-by-side action going on behind as we go down towards the hairpin. Connor Wright though goes a bit deep. Almost getting a bit of bumper contact there between those two guys. How are we faring a bit further back? We've got some side-by-side action between, that is Clement, and I can't quite see who that is. He is racing against, but just shutting the door though on the entry for turn 7, and then getting that pass done through the exit of 9. Dennis Bjorkqvist though is looking very, very racy. We knew he had pace in that car in qualifying, and he is already putting these top 2 guys under a lot of pressure as there goes the tyre bales. Not quite like iRacing, it's not a concrete block, so those are gone, but that makes it a little bit tricky for these guys to find an apex. We've got some side-by-side action though going on a bit further down the order, trying to find who that is. I've managed to pick every single car except the one I want. We've got Philip Beale, and not sure who that is he's racing with, trying to hold it down the inside through Druids. Almost has the nose chopped off his car, but does manage to get it through there, and everyone making it clean so far. Some fantastic stuff from these guys as the top 2 start to break away a little bit from Dennis then as they round out the opening lap. But it will be Connor Wright that is still leading ahead of Alexander Irish. who wasn't quite able to make the pass, carrying though good momentum down towards turn 3, maybe senses an opportunity. Conor Wright doesn't go defensive, but does go slightly deep. That may give the momentum to Alexander Irish as he heads through the corner. Doesn't look like he managed to quite get the exit that he wanted there, and that's possibly helped to bring Dennis a bit closer. It has. We've got some side-by-side action going on a bit further down. I think that was, excuse me as I make my way through all cars, that was Robin Moe, who was, I think, defending a little bit from William Dorsch, but holds onto that position for the time being. We've also got a very close group of cars heading towards the hairpin. Sebastian Fiedelack being pushed a little bit deep there from... who is that he's racing with? That is Hans Peter now trying to go around the outside, and he does make that pass stick as they head towards 7, 8, and now 9. We've got some more side-by-side action. I think it was Dan Minton that was being overtaken by Josh Waring, so losing a position out there as well. So much action going on as it continues. As I try to find the car ahead, Sebastian Fiedelack, I think, was trying to make a move to reclaim a position on Hans Peter, but wasn't able to quite make that one stick, as there's a car off in the background. Who was that? A very bright green car. That was John Eric Tonstad, who is going to lose nearly all of the positions to the back of the grid now, as he's lost such a great deal of momentum. Does look like he'll manage to hold on to a couple, but very, very disappointing instant for him. We've got more of these guys battling in the final sector, but not quite able to make a move just yet. We'll check in at the front. Conor Wright has been able to extend a little bit of the gap there over Alexander Irish, who gets all squirrely on the exit of turn 1 as Dennis is looking to put him under some pressure. We've got some more of these guys going side by side towards turn 3. We've got Fernandez under pressure from Jogurk, maybe going a bit deep in turn 3. Will that give the momentum to Jogurk? I think it will. Has he got enough of a run as they head now towards turn 4? He might be able to set up a move in towards turn 5. Shows his nose on the apex, on the entry to the apex. That corner carrying good speed through there, though. Does he think about a lunge up the inside? He just shows his nose, but isn't able to quite do anything yet. It's so difficult, but Fernandez going a little bit deep, though, through the hairpin. Let's now wait patiently for the revs to build in this car. The gearing maybe not quite suiting this track as well as these guys would like. Almost going into the back bumper then of Fernandez, but isn't able to do anything just yet, though. We've got Trafka, and I think that's Clement going side by side, and Clement goes down the inside into turn 10, and he makes a move, goes a little bit deep on the entry to 11, but I think he will get that one done, as then there's a car off in the background. I think that is Hans Peter, who is going to come under pressure. I think he'd actually gained a, possibly gained a position prior to that mistake, but will kind of resume in the battle that he was in previously, so not too much harm done with that. As Clement, though, just checking back in with him, still under pressure from Trafka, who is firmly locked onto the gearbox of that car. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything just yet, though. Let's see what else we have going on in the order. There's so many battles going on. I'm trying to tune into as many as I possibly can, but this is exactly what we expected. It's what we want from this series of close racing with some of these guys, as there's a move there slightly behind. Who was that launching down the inside? That was leaving Gowie. Oh, as then Martin gets very squirrely on the exit. We've also got Josh Waring and Dan Minton, I think, going side by side there. Josh Waring managing to, I think, hold the position. Dan Minton was trying to make a move there around the outside. That's going to be tricky towards turn 3. We've also got some side by side action between Hans Peter and Sebastian Fiedelack. These guys already battled once so far. Does Fiedelack think about the inside? No, he can't quite make that one stick. Let's jump back now to Josh Waring. Dan Minton almost 3 wide in towards the hairpin. Brilliant stuff between all of these drivers and keeping it cleanly. We've had a couple of drivers already go to the pits, unfortunately. Hopefully that isn't for an early retirement, though, as we've got a bit of a send going on from Lattinen trying to make his way past James. Right, there's a contact there between Dressler and Lattinen. Different lines through that series of corners, and all unfortunately came crumbling down there as already have to hop back towards Battenberg. I think that is going side by side with, I'm not sure who that is he's going side by side with. I think that's Eagle 55, it turns out. Still side by side though as they go through into turn 12. Can Eagle get the cut back towards Druids? It looks like he might have got a little bit of a better exit there as they head over the crest of 13 and down towards turn 14. Can he carry anything towards Druid's corner? Not quite, but that's a little bit deep there from Battenberg in front of him. Can Eagle carry anything towards the penultimate corner? I'm not sure he's going to have the momentum that he wants there, and I think Battenberg is going to hold on to that position for the time being. He does. So what else have we got going on? Leaving Gowie coming under pressure from Sam Morsley, defending the inside towards turn 1. Can Morsley go around the outside? It's going to be a tricky one to make stick if he can. Carries good momentum though through turn 1. Anything that he can do towards turn 3? I'm not sure we've got, I think it's Battenberg that's going slightly wide in the background. Morsley won't be able to do anything for the time being. Let's check back in with Dan Minton and Josh Waring. These guys have been battling quite hard over the last few laps. Minton maybe thinks about an opportunity. Waring possibly goes defend in the middle of the track into the hairpin and still manages to hold on to that position. We're going to be seeing a lot of this, I think, around Oulton Park. It's quite easy to defend around here, seeing some dust kicked up over almost every Apex. Who is that that's going slow? Behind, that is, I can't find the car. That is the 193. So 193, who is that going through there? That is Alves, who I think is a lap down. So taking a very extreme. Oh, we've got some we've got some battling going on. We've got Kiki Mack going side by side with the 117 car of Sam Morsley. So Morsley has lost out a bit then as they now head over the crest towards Druid's corner. This could get very, very tricky between these two. It's not easy to go side by side through there. Kiki Mack still on the inside line. Morsley giving him a bit of room on the apex. Brilliant racing between these two. But now Kiki Mack probably coming under pressure then from Remco, who senses an opportunity down towards the inside of turn 16. We've got a yellow flag somewhere else on the circuit. I can't quite see who that is for. There's a slightly beaten up BMW there of Krzysztof Witkowski, who has been a bit in the wars. Hopefully not losing out too much though in terms of performance. These cars not quite as reliant on downforce as we see in the GT3 Cup, so he should hopefully be able to carry on fairly well. Let's check back in on what's going on at the front. Connor Wright has made a complete breakaway from Alexander Irish, who has done the same to Dennis Bjorkquist, who keeps his P3 position for now. We've got Steinhauser and Oliars that are battling pretty close as they head through that sort of corner. Oliars though going slightly wide of the apex of turn 8, loses some ground as they then head towards that next complex of 10, 11 and 12. Jumping back though, we've got Josh Waring, who has made some progress towards James Riley ahead of him, but there's also very, very closely being hunted down by Crop behind him, who is putting him under all sorts of pressure. Thinks about going down towards the inside. Well, yellow flag for the 177. That is Kiki Mack. Oh, there's several cars off. Several cars have been involved in an incident there. What on earth happened between these guys? That's Kiki Mack and Sam Morsley, I believe, going side by side in towards the hairpin. We had Remco and I think that's Witkowski going side by side behind them as well. So what happened when they came into the complex of 7, 8, 9? Through 7, okay, and on the entrance for 8, very similar to what we saw happen to Lassinen and Battenberg there, being collected by another car from behind. Tried to stop for the incident, but just could not quite make it through there, so unfortunate for him to drop down the order. There's another car running slowly, but looking back, we've got Sonolta that's coming into the pits. It looked like he was very close with a car as well as I think that's Bjorkquist has. Who is that? So we've got Steinhauser, Oliars, and Robin Moe, all in a very, very close tussle now for P4. So Steinhauser trying to hold on to this position and defend towards the inside. Oh, as Robin Moe launches it down into the apex. We get the worst camera angle as we head towards that corner. But Robin Moe almost collected Oliars on the entry to turn 5, but just about managed to keep it out of the BMW ahead of him. But these guys then, Robin Moe has come out of nowhere, but Oliars has got a very, very good run on Steinhauser, now senses an opportunity to go around the outside towards turn 10. Christian Steinhauser good defending, parking it in the middle of the road. Oliars not able to quite do anything about that. Can he carry any additional momentum over Steinhauser ahead of him as they head towards Druids, this long run? Technically 2 corners before you get there, but even in these cars with less downforce, easy flat for these guys, and then tricky braking zone. But it does look like Steinhauser's held on for the time being. We've got Clement, who hasn't been able to shake Trafka over these last few laps, so he is continuing to sustain the pressure of the number 7 car behind him, as Trafka thinks about having a look up the inside. Won't be able to do anything just yet, but looks like Clement will hold on to that position for now. We've also got Yannick Lautenschlager being put under pressure from Philip Bill as they go through the final couple of corners. Philip getting a little bit wide on the exit of the corner there, but does still carry good momentum. How's he got to run as they head towards turn 1? I don't think he's going to be quite close enough unless it's a bit of a late lunge. Thinks better of it. How does he set up his exit though through turn 1? Pretty evenly matched, I think, between those 2 guys, and it looks like Yannick will hold on to that position for now. Looking a bit further down the order, in 21st position we've got Leven Gary, who is defending from Nathaniel Shirley and holding on to that one for now. So it looks like he actually got a very good exit through turn 1, go a bit deep though into turn 3, brought it back though for a late apex, so I think that's okay. Oh, who's going side by side there ahead of them? That is as I tried desperately to find the cars. I do apologise. Who is it? We've got Josh Waring, and I believe that was Crop that was going side by side, going through that very tricky fast left-hander of turn 4. Now into this difficult complex of corners 7, 8 and 9. We've seen contact happen between those corners before, as it looks like the driver got the best exit of all of them is Felix Dressler behind, and Felix may be thinking of a dive down towards the inside, but won't happen. Oh, that's a mistake there from Josh Waring. Skips the corner entirely. Now, does he give up the positions? He gives space to Crop on the inside. I think that's fair. Or we might have a 3-wide moment going towards Druids if we're not careful. I think Felix has slightly backed out of this one. Oh, there's contact side by side as they head through turn 14. Now into Druids. Can Crop get the position done on braking? Slicing across the front of Josh Waring's car then. And now Felix Dressler senses an opportunity to try to put Waring under pressure. Defending the inside ahead is Crop going into the penultimate corner. And it doesn't look like Dressler's going to be able to do anything for the time being. Leven Gary, though, has pulled away from Nathaniel over the last couple of laps, and he is looking to try to get involved in this as well, but I don't think this battle is done just yet. It looks like Josh is struggling for pace. We're about a third of the way through the race, and he does seem to be struggling somewhat. These guys don't know what tyre wear is going to be like, but Dressler all over the back of Josh Waring as there's a yellow flag for the 193. That is Alves. I think he was already a lap down, maybe calling it a day himself, unfortunately, but Josh Waring has managed to pull a bit of a gap though ahead of Dressler, who is now potentially under pressure from Gary, but I think these guys have stabilised their battle for the time being. Let's jump back to this train of cars. We've got a train of almost 5 cars starting from P3, would you believe? We've got Dennis Bjorkquist, who has been hunted down over the last couple of laps by Steinhauser, Oliars, Robin Moe, and then William Dorsch, who is looking to try to get involved as well. So we've got 5 cars now looking to try to battle, and we'll have to see what these guys think about doing in terms of pit stops. I don't think the undercar is going to be quite as strong as maybe we're used to in the GT3 categories, but it could still be a good strategy if you feel like you're being held up in a train like this. Dennis O does look like he is struggling for pace. We're seeing some good support. Oh, as I say that, Oliars then, the first one in this train to blink and go into the pit. So we'll have to keep an eye on how he gets on. That's allowed this train to stabilise a bit, though. We've got, I think that is Manuel Rutter trying to put Christos Joguk, who looks like they're running very, very similar liveries. I'm not sure if they are in a team of sorts, but Rutter trying to put pressure onto Joguk into the first corner, wasn't quite able to do anything about it. Got to be careful, though, about Hans-Peter, who maybe senses an opportunity himself. Got blue flags for someone around here. Not quite sure who that is for, but seen some good blue flag awareness from these guys so far. Oh, is that who is that is off? I can't see because the sheer massive car numbers in that area. Who is that? The 92, I believe. That is Igor that has gone off, so he has lost it through Islands Bend by the looks of it, and it's so easy to just push a little bit too hard, and he now has to wait very, very patiently to try to rejoin. Probably wants to think about doing a 3-point turn there, I think, to get himself parallel to the rest of the pack, but Igor not having the luck that he would have wanted, and now Rutter having gone from putting pressure onto Joguk, who goes a little bit wide on the exit of 11 himself. Now it looks like Manuel's coming under increasing pressure from Hans-Peter as we jump on board with him. Can he do anything in the slipstream, gaining a slight amount, but isn't closing as fast as he would be hoping. Joguk going a bit wide, though, through Druid, so these two might be looking close in. That was a good run there from Peter. Does Rutter think about defending the inside? He's not going to. Hans backs out of that one. I think he would have had an opportunity there to get the nose towards the inside. Has got a good run, though, through the penultimate corner. I think Manuel is going to head into the pit lane. He is, so that will be probably a wise move for him. Doesn't want to lose too much time in the battles in the mid-pack. Who else have we got battling, though? We've got Josh Waring and Felix Dressler. Dressler comes into the pits now. So some of these guys, another one dives into the pits just behind. We've got Nathaniel Sam Maudsley locked onto the gearbox there, even in the pit lane, as these guys start making their stops. So we're looking ahead, though. Alexander Irish has massively closed up to Connor Wright. There was a 2-second gap at some point before, so I'm not quite sure what has happened to Connor Wright, but somehow, some way, Alexander Irish has made what was looking like a bit of a lonely race in P2 suddenly a very, very good opportunity to try to snatch the win away from the Van Wall SimSport driver. So dramatic scenes here, and not quite sure how that happened. It looked like the last lap from Connor Wright was only half a second slower than Alexander Irish, which by no means is a fast lap time. He lost another 0.6 on this lap, though, so maybe just a series of consecutive errors, and Alexander Irish very much trying to see if he can take away that top spot. Connor Wright still does have the fastest lap of the race, but right now you'd have to say that Alexander is the one that is firmly in the driving seat, as Connor Wright, though, is going to pit himself, sensing that he was going to come under pressure very, very quickly and doesn't want to lose any time, so he is going to go for a new set of tyres. Now, how does Alexander play this? If he thinks that he's got the pace, does he try to go for a form of overcut, or does he look to try to react immediately and just put in a good in-lap? So we'll have to see how this plays out, as we've got some funkiness with the timing board, as we've got several people pitting, and I think almost for the first time in this race, no, not quite, I was going to say that we had maybe a settled down series of battles, but we've got Dressler, who I think has lost a considerable amount of time on that last lap, potentially. Yes, I do believe the Dressler has dropped down the order quite substantially. I'm trying to remember who exactly he was battling with, but I don't believe it was originally with the likes of yeah, because he is behind Tonstad now. So Dressler has had some sort of moment on this lap which has seen him lose a substantial amount of time. So it does look like that the pace that he's got, though, is going to allow him to pull a bit of a gap from behind. Now let's see what Alexander does on this lap. And let's also actually have a look. Is Connor Wright in clean air? He is. So that is exactly what he would have been wanting he's got, I believe, a lapped car. He's got 2 lapped cars, I think, ahead of him, because in 14th on track is Remco. But you can see on the screen there are 2 cars between himself and Conor Wright, and Irish is continuing to stay out, so he is going to go for a form of overcut strategy. And what are the lap times looking like? A 48.4 from Alexander. That is only a couple of tenths off his previous best. Steinhauser has just come into the pits as well. Yogurt coming under pressure from Peter again, and they're both going to look to dive into the pits. Bit of a tricky pit lane entry. Oh, almost goes straight to the back of the BMW there. That was very, very late on the brakes from Hans. Hopefully not getting a stop and go 30-second penalty for speeding, but that was as close as you would like. With these guys, we've got a few more drivers though that are staying out. We've got Yannick, who is, I think that might actually be a blue lapped car behind him. Is that Battenberg? It is! I'm learning the liveries as we go. So Yannick is still driving around effectively on his own for the time being. So we have just a brief moment of calm before inevitably, when everyone finishes their pit stops, we will end up in chaos once more. Marcin was one of the early pitters. He's behind... is he behind William Dorsch? He is. So William Dorsch, I believe, pitted quite a bit later, and I think has got ahead of Oliars there, because I think these guys were fairly close on track, but I think that those positions may have swapped around a bit. We've got a bit of side-by-side action on the exit of turn 1. We've got Sinolta, and I think that is Philip Beale. No, it's not Philip Beale. That is as I'm desperately trying to see the car number, which then just falls out of shot ever so slightly. Let's see. We've got leaving Gowie as there's some side-by-side action. Who is... I've completely lost track of the battle altogether now. I do apologise. It's not the easiest to track down this many cars, unfortunately, and a lot of these liveries are still very new. Kiki Mack has just done his pit stop and has a very, very crumpled front of the car there. What do we have going on here, though? We've got Remco, who is in P5. I think that is a lapped car behind him, though probably our closest battle for position on track at the moment is this between Steinhauser and Robin Moe, who seemingly have been battling for a very, very long time as some of our remaining drivers come into the pits. Alexander Irish, though, is not one of them. Dennis has come into the pits, though, and he was amongst this battle. So, where is Dennis going to come out? You can see those guys making their way towards turn 1, and Dennis is very, very far ahead of those guys. So I don't think the undercut quite working as these guys would have been hoping or expecting. So that's worked out very, very nicely for Dennis. Conor Wright has just got past the lapped car of... Who is that? That is Alves, who hasn't retired. Kudos to Alves, who is continuing to charge on. We've got Witkowski, and I think that is Maudsley behind him. Very, very bruised front end of that BMW, running a Need for Speed Most Wanted inspired livery there for that car, as they are closing up onto Josh Waring. We've seen some of these names involved in some battles already. Josh Waring gets a huge moment through turn 3 of Cascades, and that is going to allow Witkowski to get through. Can Maudsley get through as well? I think he might. And I've clicked on the wrong car, but down the inside in towards turn 4, Maudsley is going to get past Josh Waring. So that mistake from Josh costing him dearly. Looking a bit further up, though, we've got Hans Peter and Philip Beale going side by side as they head towards turn 10. Philip trying to go all the way around the outside. That'd be a brilliant move if he can pull that one off. Tight on the apex of turn 11, though. These guys giving each other just enough space, and they'll be still side by side through turn 12. Bill using all of the track and a bit more to try to carry as much momentum as he can over the back straight, over the crest of 13, and will get the move done before they head in towards Druids. Brilliant, brilliant bit of overtaking there from Philip Beale. A nice side-by-side racing between those two guys, as just behind them we've got Yannick and Fidelak, who are battling as well. It looks like Fidelak is the one that is maybe the driver on the move out of these two guys. Also up ahead, where is Alexander Irish? So Alexander Irish has lost a huge amount of time, and to Connor Wright for the battle for the lead. Last lap was a 51.0, so I'm not quite sure what has happened there. As meanwhile, also for P3, Dennis, despite coming out very, very far ahead of Steinhauser and Robin Moe, that he has lost a great deal of time. So maybe with these cars, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I think that the BMW Cup cars do not have tyre blankets the same way that they have in GT3. So what that means is that there's going to be a huge discrepancy and disadvantage for when you're actually on these fresh tyres initially. So whilst Steinhauser and Moe lost considerable time at the kind of initial phase of those pit stops, they've gained it back almost immediately, as it's taking a decent amount of time for Dennis's tyres to come up to temperature. But concerningly for Alexander Irish then, despite being right on the gearbox originally of Connor Wright, that he has lost a tremendous amount of time despite being the car that did the overcut. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there for that to take place, but by no means what Alexander would have wanted. So that last lap was when he did his pit stop. So the 151 was actually when he boxed, and that last lap was his first lap from the pit stop. So it just looks like maybe Alexander made a mistake during that initial lap, coming out of the pits potentially. Connor Wright, though, firmly back on the pace already into the 147s. Looking at this battle for P3, it does look like Steinhauser's fallen a little bit away from Dennis ahead of him, and is coming under increasing pressure from Robin Moe, as all goes a bit deep into the hairpin there. Moe was much more nicely tucked into the camber of that corner, and was able to gain a bit of time there. Just having a quick look at the chat. So we've got some good support there, both for Christus Yogak and Clement in P6 as well. And unfortunately, Dar Suzuka in the chat, I'm afraid I don't know what the name corresponds to on the grid, but very sorry to hear how your race ended up playing out. It's so easily done, as I think William Dorsch actually was doing a similar thing there, getting very much dropping a tyre on the exit of turn. Where was that? That is the run towards Drury, so that would have been on the exit of turn 12. James Riley, was that the first name? I'm trying to find. It was James Riley. So James, unfortunate to hear about how your race played out there. So hopefully better luck next time at Silverstone. Not quite. So the run-ups are a little bit more forgiving, I think, at Silverstone and Oulton Park. Oulton Park has a nickname of being sort of the British equivalent of the Green Hell, the Nordschleife, for a reason, and well, it's a very unforgiving circuit. Provides some great racing sometimes and very close battles, but can be extremely difficult to hook up a lap around, as Clement continuing to sustain pressure from William Dorsch behind. William Dorsch thinks about the inside towards the hairpin. Clement goes a little bit deep there, and Dorsch was nicely tucked into the apex. Won't be able to set up a move into 7, 8 and 9, I don't believe, but as Oliars is definitely closing on to the back of these guys. In actual fact, Oliars is now closer to Dorsch than Dorsch is to Clement, so Clement has been able to just get a little bit of breathing space, and if Oliars and William Dorsch start to do battle, that might allow him to close down. That was a bit deep on the brakes there from Dorsch. Maybe might lose a bit of momentum on the exit of 12. Doesn't get as out of shape as he was before, but has definitely lost some ground on the car ahead. Let's go on board for a second with Oliars see what it's like to follow us down into Druids. It does look like Oliarz is very, very confident in the car at the moment. Was seemingly a lot later on the brakes down towards Druids corner, but isn't going to be able to quite do anything. Lost a bit of momentum though on the exit, and obviously a bit of a buzzword for the stream, and I imagine for future streams of this series, because momentum is very much the key for success in this car. Number 18, who was that? I saw a yellow flag for. I'm trying to find them on the list. Who was that? I cannot track down who that was, unfortunately. Is then going very, very wide on the exit of turn 1. I think that was one of our cars that is a lap down. Was that Igor? That was Igor. So Igor having not the greatest of races, but is definitely looking to continue to finish by the looks of it, as his battle for P6 rages on. Clement, though, actually senses a need to defend the inside of the hairpin this time round, and we've now got a three-way battle for P6 between these guys. The gaps up ahead have settled down, but William Dorsch is looking like he is feeling very, very racy, and Clement trying to do all he can to defend, though. But Marcin gets the best run out of all of them on the exit of turn 9. That was a brilliant launch off of the exit there, and we've seen, I think it was Philip Beale earlier, go around the outside towards turn 10. Can Oliarz do the same? Can't quite. Good defensive driving there from William Dorsch. Now, how will they fare as they head up on the run towards Druids corner? I think Dorsch had a little bit of a compromised exit there, and Oliarz is closing. Oh, a little bit of contact there. Actually gives him a bump draft. So, interesting tactics going on in this form of racing. Bump drafting we sometimes see in GT3, but is definitely something that we see a lot more here in kind of the sort of lower and slower categories, and that has allowed William Dorsch to just maybe get the advantage he needs going into the final corner. There's contact, though, between him and Clement, and Oliarz, has he played this one perfectly? Can he get the pair of them? It looks like he'll end up getting Clement, but William Dorsch is going to take P6 away. That looked like Dorsch just got a little bit deep on the brakes into the penultimate corner. I imagine that Clement, as he gets very, very sideways through turn 1, but Clement and his supporter in the chat will probably not be best pleased about that one from William Dorsch, but Oliarz almost setting that one up from behind the scenes and allowing him to gain the position. Maybe not the position that he was quite expecting, but as... Oh, Dorsch goes off! Dorsch goes off, and is he going to go into the wall? Can he get through the gap? He does, but gets very stuck up on the apex. Clement gets all sorts of held up there, and that's allowed traffic to get out the inside. Absolute chaos brews towards the hairpin. It is a very, very tricky thing once you go off there through turn 4. Try to bring that one back. It was a good recovery from Dorsch, but poor Clement, twice now he's had the bright orange BMW absolutely launched at him down the side, as we've got Fernandez now trying to make a move around the outside. As there's contact between those two guys, that was Trafka. Does Trafka hold it? Trafka's around. Trafka is around and is backwards. Fernandez is going to continue and will take that position. So how did this look between these guys? Let's see if we can get a bit of a different camera angle. Let's go on board actually with Fernandez. So Fernandez pulling to the left-hand side, thinks about the right, forces Traffic to go defensive down the left-hand side, and gets squeezed on the entry. I think that Fernandez was well within his right there to have his car positioned where he did. That did just look like Traffic got a little bit greedy with how he was trying to squeeze Fernandez behind there. We've seen some moves like that happen in Formula 1, for example, and well, I won't get too much into it, but disaster can end up coming very easily from that. We've got Philip Beale and Hans-Peter going side by side towards turn 1. Can Haas get down the inside? Not quite. So Philip Beale, not sure if that was in defense or for position, but is going to be the car that comes out ahead and is in P13. Goes a bit deep though into Druids, excuse me. Where am I? Cascades. Cascades, excuse me. You can tell that Oulton Park maybe not a track that is on the calendar quite so often, but Hans-Peter not able to do anything about Philip Beale for the time being. as I think once again, for a brief moment in this race, we maybe have a slightly settled down bit of battling. This is exactly what we were expecting and what we were wanting, though, from all of these guys. And I think, other than one car, I do believe that that 32 of our original 33 starters have actually soldiered on. Obviously, some of them have had slightly poorer races. Now, there's 113. Who is that? Who is the 113 car that there's a yellow flag for? For some reason, the 113 I cannot see on my timing board. Oh, that's Robin Moe. Robin Moe has lost it on the exit of Druids, I believe that is. So what happened here? Just went way too deep. So he was actually ahead of Steinhauser, so he missed that battle take place, but then loses all of his hard work as then everyone looks to come past him. So how did he end up on the other side of the road, just looking for a gap, I imagine? Swings it across, maybe not quite the rejoin, as a little tag on the wall. That was clearly not the way that I think he would have liked to have gone about doing that, but very, very disappointing there for Robin. He will carry on, but with such a small amount of this race left to go, a disappointing way for that one to end. As looking back, though, we've got almost a three-way fight now, I think. Who have we got here? Camera angles aren't doing me any favours, as yes, we've got so Trafficker has dropped back quite significantly. So what? So something I think has happened to Trafficker. Oh, of course, he had a spin from earlier. Excuse me. But he is under pressure now from Philip Beal, Hans Peter, and Yannick Lautenschlager is also looking to try to get involved in this one if he can. So 6.5 minutes left on the clock, but the battling is definitely not dying down anytime soon. So we have a very close tussle for P11. This is so just outside of the top 10. Does look like Trafficker's going to be able to hold on to that position for now. Who else have we got battling? We've also got Sam Maudsley and Josh Waring going side by side, potentially towards turn 10. Won't be able to quite do anything there. Josh Waring has been involved in a multitude of battles. I think got a little bit squirrely there on the exit turn 11, so he's going to lose some momentum. As looking in the chat, so Trafficker has an interesting 420 meaning in Czech. Interesting how languages can be surprisingly funny sometimes. So yes, languages do tend to have a way of being quite surprising in different meanings. As though looking just ahead for time being, Sam Maudsley was thinking about a move there on to Witkowski in that most wanted BMW livery, and right now the things most wanted from him is P21 as far as Sam Maudsley is concerned. But Maudsley, though, is coming under some pressure from Josh Waring behind. Josh gets a better line through turn 1. Can he do anything down towards turn 3 of Cascades? Not sure he's going to be able to do anything just yet. Maudsley does look like he has kept that one all together. Looking a bit further down, we've got some rather battered BMWs here. We've got Shabox and Kiki Mack, who look like they have been very much in the wars. But despite all of that, they, with less than 5 minutes of this race left to go, are having a good battle that is still going on between them. As Kiki Mack runs a little bit wide, though, through Cascades, desperately trying to make a move if he can, but isn't quite able to do anything for the time being. I'm going to look a bit further ahead as Hans Peter has dropped back from that battle for P11, and Yannick is locked onto the gearbox of that BMW ahead of him. We've also got Robin Moe, who is a bit further back. There is a lapped car in front of him. But Hans is coming under pressure, and so is Trafficker, actually. The talking point in the chat, and right now is going to have a great deal of problems. We've seen Philip Beale go around the outside of unconventional corners before, looking to try to set one up again if he can. Carries a brilliant momentum through turn 1. That'll be the inside for turn 2, and then the outside for Cascade. Side-by-side action. That is Trafficker going a bit deep, though. Does that give some extra momentum back towards Beale? I don't think he's going to quite have enough as they head towards the hairpin of turn 5. Trafficker going deep through Island Curve, does manage to hold onto the car. We saw William Dorsch run into trouble there earlier. As in here, the revs just... These guys must be, every time they get on the power, they're just longing and waiting for the car to pick up speed. As we've got some side-by-side action going on behind between Hans-Peter and Yannick Lautenschlager. Yannick senses an opportunity himself around the outside, as so does Philip Beale ahead. So we've got several moves going on. We've seen Philip make a move around the outside here before. It does look like he's been slightly bumped there, so he won't be able to make that one stick. And Hans defends nicely from Yannick, though, who's got Robin Moe, who's on a resurgence of his own, trying to see if he can come back through the order after that cataclysmic error just a couple of laps ago, but it doesn't look like he'll be able to do anything for the time being. If anything, he's now under a bit of pressure from the likes of Krop. Beale, though, got a little bit squeezed there, and that's not the first time we've seen Trafficker squeezing someone into turn 10, though. That did look a bit... I think that looked a bit fairer, though, this time. I think that was maybe just a bit of wonky contact through turn 10, so... Some hard racing and door-to-door battling between these guys, and Philip not quite managing to make the move that he wanted to stick, as Robin Moe very much under pressure now from a crop behind him. And Robin managed to get his way into P4, so and didn't have any contacts, as far as I'm aware, to get any damage, but he is under a great deal of pressure from Krop in these final couple of laps. I think the next time that our leaders cross the line, that will be it for... will be the final race. It looks like final lap of this race, excuse me. But Robin, that's Krop going wide, and he's absolutely slammed into the side of Robin there. We saw William Dorsch suffer an interesting fate through there before, but unfortunately the absolute worst has happened there with Krop as he falls victim to turn 4 as well. It's such a dangerous corner, and yeah, the gap in the barrier does provide an opportunity for rejoining, but it also allows the opportunity for absolute bullseye targeting on the apex. So very, very unfortunate there for Robin, a complete victim there, as the engineer has said that the final lap of this race has occurred. Connor Wright, after coming under pressure, Alexander Irish has managed to close that gap, but it does look like Connor Wright may have done just about enough, trying to keep an eye on all of these other battles. We've got Oliars and William Dorsch, who have swapped positions, actually. So Dorsch, in that instant earlier with Clermont. Oh, as Oliars goes very, very deep into turn 3. Does that give an opportunity, potentially, for William as they head towards turn 4? We've seen it get tricky with these guys already, but I don't think it's going to be anything that William can do here. Our leaders are very, very quickly closing in, though, on finishing this race, as they've got just about a sector to go. Oliars still holding on to that P5 spot. Dorsch may also potentially get some sort of form of penalty for what happened between him and Clermont Forwards. We've got a car off towards the hairpin. Who is that? That's Christos Yorguk. I believe that was a 69 car. Oliars still sustaining pressure, though, from William Dorsch. Our leader's not quite at the end of the race just yet. Oliars having to defend for his life for this top 5 spot. It will be Connor Wright, though, as he heads towards the line to take the first win of the BMW M2 CIS Racing Cup here at AOR. Alexander Irish gave him a strong battle at sort of the mid-stage of the race, but wasn't quite able to challenge him at the end. Dennis Bjorkquist will hold on to P3. Good effort there from him. Steinhauser will take P4. Oliars will hold on to P5. Looking down the order, what other battles do we have? We've got leaving Gowie under pressure from Dan Minton. It looks like this is our closest fight for now. Going through Druid, Curve there has got the it's getting very squirrely, the pair of them on the exit of Druids. It doesn't look like it's going to affect anything position-wise. They've got Robin Moe, I believe that is just ahead of them, who has had certainly the race of attrition. As Gowie, though, under pressure on a run towards the line, and is just about going to hold on to that one from Sinolta. Dan Minton, who, according to my timing board at least, was around that battle, and he seems to have disconnected, so I'm not entirely sure what happened. What else have we got going on? We've got Remco just ahead of, that looked like, was that Josh Waring? It was. So I think Josh Waring maybe dropped a couple of positions there, right at the very end. Maybe a fuel issue? These guys didn't refuel during this race, but some interesting power slides and donuts there from these guys. But after what has been 45 minutes of absolute non-stop action here in the inaugural race of this championship, Connor Wright was the driver that took victory, converted his pole position into a win, despite it looking a little bit challenging from his perspective at times. Alexander Irish finishing in P2 and Dennis Bjorkquist rounding out the podium. Ends up being a bit of a lonely race in the end for Dennis, but he did have to fight quite a bit at various stages. Christian Steinhauser finishing in P4 with Marcin Oliars rounding out top 5 after holding on to that position from William Dorsch. Maybe some post-race penalties for William with that incident around the battle with Clement, who eventually finished in P7. Anthony Fernandez finishes in P8. I think generally a fairly quiet race for him, but making good use of other people's woes. Manuel Rutter finishing P9, Trafficker P10, maybe some inquiries around his race as well potentially. Philip Beale in P11, probably overtake of the race, I would suggest, of that side-by-side action. I think that was with Hans, who finished just behind him earlier on. Then Yannick finishing in P13, Robin Moe, who was up in P4, and then with 7.5 minutes to go, dropped it on the exit of Druid's Corner. Just braked a little bit too deep and ended up falling down the order. Then we've got Levan Gowie, who finished in P16. Some of my timing board has gone extremely wonky now. Martin Sinolta, P17. Christos Jorguk lost some time as well. So Jorguk finished in P14. I think he has left the server now. And then I've got Krop having finished in P18. Unfortunately, half the names have disappeared from my schedule. But then we've got Fiedlak P19, Nathaniel Shirley in P20, Vikoski in P21, Tonstad 22nd, as someone else has left the server, and now I've lost the ability to click on anybody at all. We'll try. We'll try that and see if that works any better. So then we have who did we have? We had Remco finishing in 23rd, Josh Waring 24th, Sam Maudsley 25th, Lattinen in 26th. I've lost reference to the 925's car first name because they've left the service, but the 925 finishing in 27th. Felix Dressler, a mixed race for him, finishing in 28th. Battenberg in 29th. Kiki Mack in 30th. Igor 55 in 31st. Alves soldiering on 5 laps down to finish 32nd. And then it looks like we did have a 3 other drivers that had connected but left during the race. So we had James Riley, Dan Minton, according to my timing board, finished 18 laps down. I thought Dan was in the race for a bit longer than that. And then I think that's Andre finishing in 36th, I think. 33rd to 35th was our retirees for today. So a very, very exciting race for round one. Will we have any interviews potentially? Let's see if anyone wants to chat. So I'm just seeing, do we have anybody that wants to join me for an interview? We haven't got any so far, so we shall see if anybody wants to hop in. But that is round one of this championship over and done with, and Connor Wright finishing his fine form from the GT3 championship and continuing it over into this new car, new type of driving, and new series of challenges. So starting off the season exactly the way he would have wanted. It got a little bit dicey at times, but he does take the Grand Slam of pole position, fastest lap, and the race win, and doesn't quite get the all laps led, unfortunately, because he did do his pit stop before some of those around him, but effectively he was in P1 for the entire duration of that race. So a very, very strong showing from him. And next week, when we head over to Silverstone, I believe that we have some interesting weather that may play into it. So at Silverstone, what are we likely to have? Almost an entirely guaranteed wet race. So very, very much going to be a different type of driving style for these guys. Silverstone, a much more flowy circuit, high speed circuit, but maybe not quite as high speed as it would normally be considering the level of rain. So we'll have to see how these guys end up coping with that in this car. And not the sort of very different style of circuit, not the undulation that we saw here. A much bigger straight for these guys to maybe make a bit more use of the slipstream in these cars. Bump drafting as well, maybe a bit more apparent at Silverstone. So the action that we saw here today, I think, is only a taste of things to come. Silverstone, I imagine, is going to be a very, very exciting race next week. Unfortunately, by the looks of it though, it doesn't look like anybody is going to join for an interview, so I will look to wrap up there. But thank you so much everybody for watching. We will be back for round 2 of the BMW M2 class of championship next week at Silverstone. Same time, 7:30 British Standard Time. And I potentially may have a co-commentator for that one. That is yet to be seen. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching. If you want to get involved in any league racing in a very friendly community, head over to the AOR website of apexonline.racing, and there is always opportunities to get involved. You can look to join the Discord server as well, very friendly community. So it'd be great to see as many people getting involved as possible, and hopefully to see as many of you next week as well for round 2. So thank you very much for watching this evening, but for now, it's goodbye.